It began as a hushed rumor circulating behind the doors of Clarence's house, a quiet suggestion that something within had gone terribly amiss. Those who typically spoke with restraint and formality had shifted to words like disaster and catastrophic. This was no passing scandal or minor breach of etiquette. The focus was Prince Harry, once regarded as a central figure in the monarchy's future, but now seen as steadily unraveling it. What should have been a careful attempt at reconciliation with King Charles has spiraled into a very public drama, filled with allegations, suspicion, and a royal household that appears to have reached its limit. It is rare for an official royal source acting with the king's consent to issue a statement to the press so direct it might as well have been proclaimed from the palace balcony. Yet that is exactly what has unfolded. The monarchy, usually deliberate in keeping above public squabbles, now finds itself in crisis management. And it is Harry's words that have ignited the fire. For months, the much-discussed meeting at Clarence's house had been framed as a tentative step toward reconciliation, a father and son carefully rebuilding fractured ties. By many accounts, Harry was fortunate even to have been granted such an audience. After years of memoirs, interviews, and televised productions in which he aired a long list of grievances, he was still welcomed with courtesy and given a chance to repair the relationship. But instead of quiet gratitude, he delivered a storm of extraordinary claims, speaking of hidden adversaries, palace intrigues, and dark conspiracies. For King Charles, already burdened by the responsibilities of the crown, his personal health, and the expectations of the nation, the situation has felt impossible, like attempting to hold water in cupped hands while Harry continues to pierce holes through his fingers. The issue extends beyond a single set of remarks. It is a recurring pattern. Harry has fallen out with friends, with his royal role, even with his homeland. He turns disputes into battles of words with startling frequency, burning bridges until he is left isolated, standing on the ashes of relationships once vital to him. Observers point to the collapse of his charity, Centabale, once a hopeful initiative now derided as a public relations failure. His conflict with its chairwoman, Sandra Chandala, a widely respected and principled figure, left the organization in disarray. To many, this reflects more than a temperamental streak. It suggests a tendency to dismantle the very causes and connections that once gave him purpose. And through it all, the palace's response has carried a strikingly dramatic quality, almost Shakespearean in its tone and inevitability. It was a statement delivered with royal restraint, yet its sharpness was unmistakable. In a media world where even the smallest dispute is branded explosive or shocking, the palace chose one word for Harry's latest remarks: counterproductive. To those fluent in royal phrasing, the weight of that word is clear. It carried the same cold precision Queen Elizabeth used after the Oprah interview, when she responded with the deceptively mild phrase, "Recollections may vary." Elegant, restrained, and devastating all at once. When the king's advisors call something counterproductive, what they mean is harmful, reckless, and beyond tolerable. They are signaling that trust has not only been fractured, but may no longer be recoverable. Harry, however, appears to view himself differently. Reports suggest he believes he is helping, sweeping into Britain like a moral rescuer, casting himself as the one who can carry the burden while William and Catherine manage their own struggles. Yet this narrative has only deepened resentment, both within the palace and among the public. The comparison has been made to Count Dracula volunteering at a blood bank, a man who once accused his family of racism and profited from their private conflicts, now claiming to step forward as a savior. To many, the audacity is staggering, and from his life in Montecito, where he so often insists he has found freedom and joy, the constant proclamations ring hollow. If happiness is real, critics ask, why keep declaring it so loudly? For King Charles, this is not a passing flare of irritation. It is the breaking point after years of forbearance. Those close to him describe a man bewildered, even wounded, that his own son could transform a tentative step toward reconciliation into yet another media spectacle. Already weighed down by his illness, the obligations of the crown, and the expectations of the Commonwealth, the king has now faced the indignity of having to publicly correct his son. Court insiders suggest it was Charles himself who approved officials to go on record, an extraordinary decision in royal tradition. The monarchy rarely, if ever, descends into the fray unless forced. That the king authorized such a move speaks volumes about the severity of the crisis. This was not a matter of clarifying a small misunderstanding. It was about quashing Harry's suggestion that the palace is actively conspiring against him. The claim was so implausible that even seasoned courtiers reportedly struggled to mask their disbelief. What troubles observers most is the paranoia threaded through Harry's words. His talk of shadowy forces working to sabotage him has prompted questions about his state of mind. Friends who once partied alongside him quietly recall his past indulgence in marijuana and other substances, and now they wonder aloud if those old habits may have left deeper marks than once assumed. Some suggest that the scars of Harry's past lifestyle may still linger. While few dare to voice it openly, the whispers grow louder. Paranoia could be a lasting consequence of those years. In his memoir Spare, Harry openly admitted to heavy drug use, yet that honesty created complications. Questions remain about how he handled those disclosures on his U.S. visa application, raising legal doubts and a credibility shadow that continues to follow him. Now, when he speaks of shadowy conspiracies and unseen adversaries, critics trace the claims back to that history and wonder whether his mind ever fully recovered. That concern has evolved into something deeper, a belief among some observers that Harry is simply unwell. Even former allies, once unwavering in their support, quietly acknowledge his downward spiral. They describe a man trapped in cycles of anger, lashing out, retreating, and then lashing out again, each episode leaving another group of friends, supporters, or institutions behind. The collapse of Sentebale, a charity once meant to embody his compassion, has become a defining example. His very public clash with its respected chairwoman, Sandra Chandala, reduced the organization to a shadow of what it was. Instead of being remembered as a symbol of hope, it now serves as proof of how quickly Harry's involvement can descend into discord. This is not about one bad week or a single misstep. It is the story of someone who turns nearly every opportunity into a conflict. Across the Atlantic, the contrast is striking. In Montecito, the Sussexes present carefully curated glimpses of happiness, chicken coops, garden walks, family smiles. But beneath the polished surface lies a relentless need to declare how content they are. And nothing signals insecurity more clearly than constant insistence. It's the royal equivalent of someone posting daily gym selfies while quietly avoiding the scale. The more Harry insists he is fine, the less people believe it. Even his explanations for coming to the UK, to focus on patronages and reconnect with family, sound less like truth and more like spin. Words crafted to contain fallout rather than express sincerity. This is why the palace's choice of the word counterproductive carried such weight. It was not a mild rebuke, but a verdict. Harry has sabotaged himself. Publicly, his allies maintain that he does not want to return to royal duties and that his life in California brings him genuine happiness. Yet the narrative he pushes tells a different story. By framing himself as the victim of palace plots, Harry both demands relevance and shields himself from responsibility. The public has grown weary of the script, and King Charles no longer appears willing to indulge it. The stage is set for an even deeper rift, and the man once celebrated as the spare now looks dangerously close to exhausting his final chances. Inside Buckingham Palace, the mood is one of fatigue and exasperation. Courtiers, professionals trained to remain discreet and measured, now describe Harry as a perpetual crisis, someone who cannot be trusted even with the smallest gesture of goodwill. What should have been remembered as a rare and meaningful father-son meeting at Clarence House has instead been reduced to a source of embarrassment. Insiders whisper that the king regrets allowing it to happen at all, convinced that any private conversation will eventually be leaked or twisted into headlines. For a royal household built on discretion, Harry has become a megaphone that cannot be silenced, and that is something no monarch can afford. William, meanwhile, is said to feel a quiet sense of vindication. For years, he warned that his brother's impulsiveness and craving for validation would end in disaster. He recognized the pattern long before others. Rash decisions, reckless words, and the inability to keep private matters private. Those close to him insist he does not gloat, but there is a weary satisfaction that his predictions have proven true. He knows his father has always harbored a soft spot for Harry, yet that indulgence has now come at a steep cost. William's focus remains firmly on his own family, his wife's health, and the long-term responsibility of preparing for the crown. Watching his brother unravel has only strengthened his conviction that the monarchy cannot bend to one man's chaos. Public opinion continues to swing between sympathy and frustration. Some still see in Harry the echoes of the boy who walked behind his mother's coffin, the soldier who served in Afghanistan, and the prince who once charmed crowds with warmth and humor. They view his current troubles as the tragic outcome of paranoia and unresolved trauma. But others are far less forgiving. To them, he is simply an entitled man, the world's least happy millionaire, shouting grievances from a California mansion while ordinary people face real hardship. His claims of sabotage feel hollow against the privileges he continues to enjoy. What has made matters worse is the defensive tone of every response from his camp. Each denial reads like it was crafted by cautious lawyers, wrapped in legalistic phrasing that only fuels suspicion. When one newspaper reported details of Harry's meeting with Charles, his office reacted sharply, accusing the publication of misrepresentation. Yet instead of calming the storm, such statements have only amplified the impression of a man perpetually at war, with his family, with the press, and ultimately with himself. Harry's team was quick to condemn the press, dismissing reports as lies and invention. Yet, almost in the same breath, they confirmed details about the gifts exchanged at Clarence House, an admission that inadvertently gave the newspaper more credibility. To seasoned palace observers, it was a rookie error, taking on an institution that has perfected the art of precision. The palace does not choose its words carelessly. When officials label Harry's remarks counterproductive, it is not a casual comment. It is a deliberate, carefully crafted strike. It conveys disapproval in the sharpest possible terms while avoiding an open declaration of war. But Harry seems unable to grasp the subtlety. His instinct is to respond loudly, with rebuttals that only magnify his own mistakes. The fallout is unmistakable. Any possibility of Harry returning to royal life in an official capacity is gone. There will be no hybrid role, no half-in, half-out compromise. The late Queen made that boundary clear, and Charles, after this latest round of accusations, has no interest in reopening the discussion. Future invitations, if extended at all, will be brief, heavily controlled, and stripped of opportunity for misinterpretation. Trust has evaporated, and within royal circles, once it disappears, it almost never returns. The tragedy is that the door had been open. However narrow the chance, Harry was given an opportunity to rebuild trust with his father, to show discretion, to demonstrate restraint. Instead, suspicion and resentment dictated his choices. Now the story has solidified. A king too occupied and too burdened to indulge a wayward son, a brother quietly watching from a distance, and a prince undone by his own words. The monarchy carries on, steady and unshaken. But Harry remains outside its gates, insisting he is helping, while the evidence suggests he has only deepened his own isolation.